Hi, hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to see you as usual. Welcome back to our monthly Creator Camp live show. It's going to be a great one. My name is Snackless. I've been streaming on Twitch for about 10 years, so I've been around for a minute. I also work on community engagement on all things Creator Camp, so that includes our website, our live show, and all of our awesome sessions at TwitchCon, which I've been really hard at work for. So maybe if you listen closely, I'll tease some of those really fun things we have to look forward to. And I'm so thrilled to welcome back my co host, lover of
Hello.
oranges, Owen. You know what?
Yes.
I have to tell them about our conversation, but I'll let you intro yourself. Owen
Sure, go ahead.
Juice.
Owen Juice. Yes, yeah, we can talk about that in a little bit about branding as well, because that ties into it. Hello, everybody. I'm Owen Juice TV. I'm a Twitch ambassador and Minecraft hardcore streamer. And a fun fact about me is that I have never forgotten to unmute myself before starting to talk. So
That's really
clearly a
impressive.
professional. Yeah, a
Absolutely.
natural.
Very impressive. Honestly, I can't say that I've done the same thing. Chad, I have to tell you guys something really interesting. So, Owen and I were preparing the show and going through our talking points and making all our plans. And I can't remember how this came up, but I think Owen said to me, "What would you like people to call you, your first name or Snackless in the show?" And I said, "Oh, I'd like you to call me Snackless." And then Owen tells me, I said, "Oh, but you like to go by Owange, right?" And Owen tells me that I'm the only person who calls him Owange. And I was like, that cannot possibly be true. There has to be at least one other person in your community who calls you Owange. And Owen said, no, they literally call me Owen or Owange Juice.
hmm
And I was like,
It
and
was
just
it
never
was
told
very
me.
nice though. It was a very unique thing to you, and it was great. So I didn't want
And
to
I
correct
can't
you, but
stop.
now cat's out of the bag.
Cancel the bag. So, chat, welcome me in inviting Owen back to our show. We're so excited that you're here, and it's going to be a really fun one. Creator Camp is our interactive monthly educational show where we talk about all things streaming and all essentials you need to know. We talk about content creation, community, branding, technical aspects, monetization, everything that you could possibly need. So even if you've been on our platform for 10 years like me, or you've been on for 10 days or one day, we hope that you'll have something to take away from our show today. Okay, I talked about this last month, and if you were here, you'll know that I snuck on a sneak peek of the update that was coming to Creator Camp, and it's now live. I'm so excited to share that with each of you. We spent a lot of time crafting new assets, cool new updates, new videos, and all new awesome stuff that you can find on the Creator Camp website. So if you haven't checked it out, please take time to do so and let me know what you think. We definitely take feedback. I read all of the user voice comments for Creator Camp. We read all of the comments here as well, and we will have Q&A at the end of our show. So if something's missing from the site or you learned something awesome and you want to share it with us, please feel free to do so. I'm very excited about what we've been able to update on the site and can't wait for there to be more. Okay, so let's talk about today's show. Today's show is all about expanding your brand. We have done one episode, it's available on our YouTube channel, Twitch's YouTube channel, about branding, but today we're going to dive into some more elevated aspects. So, we're going to talk about incorporating psychology into your overall brand, where and when to market yourself, and what to think about when making merchandise, and kind of how to have success with that. So, wherever you're at in your content creation journey, we hope that we can give you some tips, inspiration, and some ideas for some awesome success in your streams. So, with that, let's dive into the psychology of branding. Considering psychology when building a brand can help you connect with your audience on a deeper or more personal level. Strong branding that represents you and the content you create plays a role when fostering loyalty and engagement. What we're suggesting basically is that all these things are really tied together and that you really should consider what your brand is communicating. I'm going to tap in my dear friend Owen to talk about branding and what we can think about in terms of psychology and branding.
Yeah, one of the things that you're going to want to start off right at the beginning is trying to understand and taking a moment to think about who your target audience is. Your target audience are going to be the people that you're going to be chatting to while you are going live. And while you can change that later on down the line, when you're just starting out, you're in the best and most flexible position that you will be pretty much for your entire career, Once you've built up that momentum, changes can be made, but you'll find that it has to be done over a sort of slower period of time. Whereas right now, you're in a position where you can set yourself pointing whichever direction you want to and going off on there. The demographics of your target audience are the specific bits you're going to be paying attention to. For example, the age, the general age range of your demographic or the target audience that you want will play a big part. You might be going for like 13 upwards, or if you're playing a lot of horror games, you're not going to want to be branding yourself towards a younger audience because you're going to be playing maturer games. Likewise, the interests of that target audience is going to be something you want to take into consideration, particularly because Twitch is unique that, unlike recorded content, you're in a position where the audience actually affects the kind of content that you're producing while you're producing it. It's a benefit and actually one of the major strengths of live streaming on Twitch that you have that option and availability to let them have an impact on the surface level of your stream. And so having the right audience around you will benefit you massively as you do that. Snackless, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on the different types of demographics or categories that you might want to like divide a target audience up to.
I think it's really, there's two parts for me when I kind of think about audience, and it is the audience that I want and the audience that I have. And sometimes
Hmm.
those two things don't actually line up. And you can find yourself in a situation where you may start creating content that lends itself to one type of audience and then realize that you might not be happy with that, or that it doesn't align with you and kind of what you're looking for. So an example of that is when I first started streaming on Twitch, I was streaming Destiny, and I was really great at PvP, and I thought that that was why people watched me. And then I realized that I found that actually be quite stressful, and I wanted to change that. And when you change things like your game, the style of your content, how you produce content, it's going to impact your audience. And so you can use that to your benefit sometimes too. Like if you aren't quite happy with your demographic, then switching how you do things and how you stream can have an impact on that. You know, like let's say you want to welcome in like more women to watch your channel, right? Then maybe we need to change our demographic. But if you're happy with your demographic, like when I play Destiny, I know what the demographic's going to be. There's going to be, you know, a higher male presenting audience compared to women, but there's still some ladies kicking around in there. So shout out to those FPS watchers. But whatever that audience is, just make sure that you are happy with what that is and that it matches your goals and your intentions.
Absolutely. That's a really good call out, especially because I've found personally that though my streams are family friendly, that doesn't necessarily dictate that I'm looking for a like quote unquote childish audience. I sort of structure it as my content is geared more towards adults. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I need to have mature rated content during the streams in order to facilitate that. And I think the clearest example I can give is that some people, some streamers in chat might be able to resonate with this as well. If you get a TikTok that you use in order to drive traffic over, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later, to your Twitch channel, you might find, especially in the Minecraft space, that the audience that you get from TikTok and the traffic that comes over that is specifically Minecraft oriented will be a more childlike, less mature audience. And while there's nothing wrong with that, you do need to kind of think to yourself like, okay, when these people do come in, how am I going to try and orient my content so that they understand like what they're getting themselves in for? Like you can't kind of just come in and start making a bunch of immature jokes that are quite childish. And if that does happen, again, relying on your moderators to help you out and kind of gently guiding them into what you might expect Twitch etiquette to be, which we've spoken about on the show before. I don't know if you want to talk about, I don't know if you have anything to say, Snackless, about regarding if you do have, once you've kind of decided on your audience and you've kind of set off, how might you go about finding out what that audience you've gotten for yourself is? Obviously, you can read chat. I don't know if there's anything else that you do personally when revising that kind of demographic.
I haven't made changes to my content to affect my demographic, but I do like to see insight into that. But honestly,
Mhm.
I just use the insight that I can kind of gain from my Twitch chat. But you know, on the DL, sometimes I look at the demographic on my YouTube videos as well, because
Mhm.
honestly, shout out to them. The information there is great. And just generally, when you can glean information and like data from the content that you create, you can use that to your advantage and to inform yourself in your content. So whether that's on Twitch and looking at the data and that we can provide or other services, it's great to know what that spread looks like and if you're in what way that's impacting your content, right? Whether positively or negatively. So
Yeah.
definitely things to think about there. We're going to move on to our next thing to think about in terms of psychology. And we're going to talk about color psychology. We have this awesome graphic that Owen made for us. And I like looking at this because sometimes I just pick colors that I like for
Mhm.
my branding, but definitely there's more in that. Like, what else do you think about when you think about colors and branding, Owen?
Yeah, you're going to be wanting to, I feel, think about, while like we were saying earlier, you can change things later down the line. Putting a good foot forwards and having like a concrete understanding of what you want your channel to look like will also dictate the kind of audience that you bring in. We're going to be looking at an example in just a little bit, not just yet after this asset, which shows some of what we're looking at here in practice. Obviously, when we're boiling down these colors into these moods in this psychology, it isn't a hard and fast rule. Pink doesn't necessarily mean innocence, but this is the sort of human nature that we might respond to when we see these colors and how we found they might resonate with us. There's also something to be said, I think, about using these colors in both dark and neon kind of vibes versus pastel and light colors. There's actually a good example that we'll see in a second of using pink both as a pastel version and then also a neon version. So just don't think that you're kind of boxed into just maybe 7 of these colors. You can always put your personal spin on it. And, the way that you go about making your branding, the other assets that you have, for example, I kind of lucked out that orange juice has a very natural urge to go towards orange. And so,
Mm-hmm.
for better or worse, I'm boxed into that. But I've also found that I've been leaning on a lot of like flora, a lot of greenery in a lot of my branding as well, due to the whole nature of the tree and nature and that kind of thing. Snackless, I don't know if you have like a certain affinity to color combinations here or how you might have used this to go about creating your branding when you were starting out.
Yeah, I kind of lean more towards pastel colors and like florals. But when I went to go develop my branding, for me personally, I found that too many pastels together wasn't giving the image that I wanted it to. And so I worked actually with my sister, and she's a graphic designer, and we went back and forth and we're able to kind of create a gradient so that I would have some dark colors as well. And that's really helpful. I have like dark purple all the way up to kind of light pink and then mauve in the middle. And that ended up being really helpful because when I was trying to overlay colors and texts on different colors, you couldn't see them if there wasn't enough contrast. And so having light and dark colors can also really help with that, in that making sure that content is readable, that it's easily readable. If it's one thing to think about colors and their emotion, but the other thing we can think about with branding is like, can people read what we're trying to say? And is it visually appealing? We can use the color wheel and we can put colors that are light colors together. We can also put colors that contrast with one another together. But generally speaking, is it cohesive? Am I reusing these colors? Does it look like a brand? And is it giving the feeling and the emotion? Is it evoking what I want it to? So sometimes it's a great practice to kind of zoom out of your content and then see if it is appealing in the way that you want it to be. So yeah, that's great call out. Also, it's kind of fun to, if you've already developed a brand and you haven't looked into the color psychology, it's kind of fun to read it and see
Yeah.
like what the emotions are and like what those colors really mean and if they resonate with the type of content that you create. It's a great practice.
Yeah, and just to kick this to chat as well, is there anybody here in the chat that has like a color combo that you naturally are going for? Maybe if you've already started streaming, feel free to share like a color combo that you've naturally been going towards. I saw somebody say like palm leaves with like oceans, greens and blues, which is a great idea. And another good example that, even though there is green and blue concretely here, mixing that into like a teal or a cyan or something like that means that you can kind of expand upon those. You don't have to like go for just the primary bold color that we've chosen here in the 7. And also, if you're curious about more of the different feelings behind these colors, doing a quick Google search for any of these kind of color wheels will bring up a whole slew of them, so you can kind of flick through and see how they might differ and what they might all have the same. But once you've
Mm-hmm.
picked what you're going for, having a consistency is definitely one of the strongest things you can do for yourself. because if you're different on every single platform, people are going to have a hard time basically recognizing at a glance. Like if I, for example, was orange everywhere on Twitch, and then on Twitter I went for like a neon pink, people might kind of double take and not immediately associate those two colors with me. We have a good
Yeah.
example here in this asset of 4 ambassadors, and how they've been using color during their streams. They've
Mm-hmm.
got like a layout here. And this is what I was talking about, where I was saying the pastel pink versus the neon, both still pinks and purples, but both having like wildly different vibes, almost like a kind of,
Very different.
yeah, amusement park versus like late night talk show kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on consistency, Snacklist, in terms of like it may not just be about colors, but other things that you can be as consistent about in your streams.
100%. That's a great call out. I mean, not only can we be consistent in colors because that's a great tie in to people and they'll kind of start to recognize that and associate, but my manager at Twitch, Kawaii Guy, also says that you should use the same profile picture across everywhere so that it's easily recognizable as you. And so even if someone sees that profile picture on another social media app or on another site, that they will immediately recognize that to you. Another thing that I utilize is I have 2 different fonts that I use. So I have a script font that I use and then a printed font, like a type font as well. And I only ever use those fonts. So then that further relates to my brand. So I'm just using things with consistency. They kind of match the style and the tone, and then I consistently use them so that they are in fact recognizable. So making sure that your logo, your font, your color schemes are consistent is huge when building a brand that's recognizable. And another part of that to think about is also your content kind of slash personality. Is your content on social media similar or akin to the content that you create on Twitch, for example? If you are really light and bubbly and friendly on stream, but then you're really negative or pessimistic on social media, that could be abrasive to people who watch your content and expect to find the same sort of personality. So overall, I think that it should be aligned with who you are as a person and easily identifiable. So those would be like the 2 things that I would say stand out. And on that note, let's talk about our next topic under psychology of branding, which is personalization. So, aside from, of course, like colors and consistency, you also want to personalize your brand. You are unique and your content should match that and your branding should match that. Like lean into the quirky, unique things that make you you. Maybe you're obsessed with oranges, or maybe you're super into apples. Orange and I, it's apples versus oranges sort of vibe here. But it could also be like I used to primarily play Destiny. So maybe I needed emotes and different things in my channel that aligned with that. And leaning into those parts that made me unique and my channel unique are great ways to build a better brand, build a more fortifiable brand. And connecting in viewers in your own way is another way to think about things, right? So one of the ways that I connect with viewers is through a lot of channel points. And one of our daily redemptions it's like Snacklist gives you an apple and there's like 50 different kinds of apples. And so every day it gives them a different type of apple and then it tracks how many apples they've gotten. And so it's a great way to connect. It solidifies my branding. It's interactive. They love it. I know Owen has a lot of really cool ways that he incorporates his brand. I mean, you have so many things, but specifically, I love the orange that you have that comes out on the mic stand because
Oh
it's
yeah.
so great. Look at this. It's so great. I'll let Owen tell you all about it. I just love this. I love it when you talk about it.
Yeah, the little tang for I think 20,000 channel points chat can redeem once per stream, bringing this little guy out. And he literally he sits off the mic stand if it isn't there. And then as soon as someone does redeem him, he goes there and people get very excited about it. But this is like having mascots, I think, is another great way to personalize a Twitch channel. Again, it's not for everyone, but I've got a few sort of inanimate objects that I surround myself with that chat likes to bring out whenever they get the opportunity, and Tang is one of them. And we'll talk about how that can tie into your merch at a later date as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great call out. It's a cool way to connect. It's a cool way to incorporate your branding, and it's something special. Like, why that is a good idea, right? Like, why is putting Tang on the mic stand a good idea? Well, you've got chat interaction, right? You've got like that buy-in. You've got something for your viewers to look forward to. It's aligned with you and your branding. It's consistent. It hits on all of the things that we talked about. It's very unique. Okay. I don't know anyone else who is having their chat redeem an orange stuffy to go on their mic stand. It's a very cool idea and something that they can look forward to. And so I'm not suggesting that you go and get an orange stuffy for your mic stand. What I'm suggesting is that you think about your channel and how you could apply Owen's idea to your own channel. So what could I do in my channel that could mimic that would suit my content and my viewers and would enhance my content? So that's the type of thing that you can kind of think about when you hear a cool idea. I want you to think, okay, how can I flip that and reverse it? How can I make that good for my channel and apply it to what I've got going on? And lastly, when you think about branding and the psychology of branding, you want to think about authenticity. A brand is more than visuals, it's the impression that you leave. You want your content and yourself and your branding to be memorable and recognizable. Be genuine, be yourself, lean into those things that make you unique. You know, it doesn't have to be that you're warm and bubbly. Maybe you rage and you throw your controller every stream because you play really, really high stakes games and you're really good at them. And maybe that's why people come to your channel. That's totally fine. Whatever it is that makes you you is what makes you and your content authentic. So lean into whatever it is that gets people in your channel and gets them watching. And lastly, if you say that you're going to be somewhere like on a schedule wise or streaming wise, make sure that you're there. I said this last episode and I'll say it again, is that people want to watch your content. Like, they're coming to your stream because they want to watch you. And it's hard for them to do that if you say you're going to stream and you can't make it. Of course, I've canceled a million streams in my experience over the years, but they want to be there. And so letting them know when you stream and giving them a schedule and then showing up are ways to show people that you value their time and get them in the door. Let them in there and have them support you and what you're doing, and have a great stream together. So now that we've talked a lot about branding, the psychology of it, what we can think about, everything that we can apply, let's talk about marketing and kind of start to tie those two things together. Marketing assists with building a strong brand and connects you with your target audience, which we've already talked about. But strategic marketing can increase visibility, attract viewers, and can help you grow a community. So we really want to be purposeful. We talk about this like every episode, but you know, there's a ton of things that are available to you as a streamer, and we never want you to just do them because they're there. We want you to do them and have purpose. So an easy suggestion would be like, oh, I have sub badges available to me. I'm just going to make them numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to upload them. While there's nothing wrong with that at all, and you've created sub badges and you've got something for your community to redeem, does that match you and your branding? Will that excite your viewers? Does it encourage them to subscribe? Do they have something to look forward to? Maybe that is, maybe you're a math streamer, okay? Or maybe you're like an engineer and it totally fits you. So for me, that wouldn't match my community at all. And so once again, what we're suggesting is to have purpose with those things. So up to talk about first is a Linktree. If you aren't familiar with a Linktree is a popular tool that allows users to consolidate multiple links into a single shareable link. So basically, you can say, hey, do you want more content from me? Do you want to follow my social media? Check out my Linktree. And in your Linktree, people will be able to see all of the links that are associated with you. So that could be everything from your Twitch, your Instagram, your Twitter, your X, your TikTok, your YouTube. It's a great way to consolidate everything that's going on. So the questions we need to ask ourselves, and should always kind of ask ourselves when you think about adding anything into what we're doing, is should you have a Linktree at all? And to that, I would say, what is the purpose of your Linktree? What is the reason that you would consolidate your links? And then if you have reasons for that, like, oh, I want people to, maybe you also have like an Etsy store, right? And you're like, ooh, this would be an awesome way to also drive content to my Etsy store. So maybe you say, okay, I'm going to keep sharing my Linktree everywhere, and then I'm going to provide a lot of places where people can access that. then that makes sense, right? It's all about things that make sense. And what I would also suggest is that you track the usage of really anything, right? If you have a website, if you have merch, if you have a link tree, what's the usage, and use that to determine the viability of what you're doing. You can put anything you want in a link tree, like literally anything. It doesn't just have to be social media. It could be an Etsy store, it could be Pinterest boards, it could be, people are creating content on a multitude of different platforms, and you'd be amazed at what cool connections people are able to create and where they're able to get sponsorships. So it can be really beneficial. A link tree can also be great if, you know, you are trying to select, you're trying to nail down a sponsorship, and you can say like, hey, here's my pitch deck, and along with that, here's all my social media, as well as a link tree if you'd like to click around and explore my content. That can be like an ease of access for people. It can be a great resource to disseminate your content and get people to see more of it. And above all, when making a link tree or anything, make sure that you brand it. Make sure that it looks like it's yours, it matches your content, and that it makes sense. Oh, and did you have anything to tap in about link trees?
Yeah, I think link trees can be a really strong asset. I think, just to play devil's advocate here, but I would also claim that I personally don't have one. And it's not that there's anything inherently wrong with it, but when I started off as a creator, one of the things I was trying to think was, what's my bread and butter? What's like my base camp? And what am I using as sort of secondary assets to whatever that base camp may be? And for me personally, the thing I wanted to do was Twitch. I was going to be making a bunch of different content around the sides, but if anybody found anything to do with me, I wanted it to be coming through Twitch. And so I eliminated the concept of a link tree in my bio, and I just had every single social media point inwards towards Twitch, in the hopes that any time that anybody found me, or if I got something viral pop off, rather than it being like, oh, that was a really good TikTok, I'm going to see what else this guy does. I'll click on his link tree. Oh, he also has Instagram. I'm going to go ahead and check out Instagram Reels, and then be like, oh, this is the same content as I just saw. Instead, being like, oh, I wonder what else this guy does. Oh, it's Twitch. And then hopefully trying to like leave that bait out. And that's a good example there on that asset. Technically, if we're being pedantic, you could also argue that the arrows would come out of Twitch, because when people come to my platform and they go like, oh, what you do is great. I saw your TikTok when you did that thing about like that peak video that you made the other day. Even though they've come through Twitch, I will also then kind of be pushing them outwards at the end of stream, and would strongly recommend using your social medias as like a next step when you're ending up your stream. Obviously, if you want to raid into somebody, that's great, but basically saying like, oh, I just uploaded a new YouTube video, everybody go and check that out. If you have like some kind of stream deck, having a button that you can kind of press to spam through your socials is usually just a good way to like wrap up the show, and can be a nice chapter. There's a couple of people in chat who have hinted at something that we might be looking at in a little bit, which is websites. So stay tuned for that, because we also want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about that being as like another approach.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
in terms of traffic, that's kind of what you're going to be looking at. Like, you're using these discoverability platforms to push through, but what you need to think is, where are they going to go next? What's the next step? Is a link tree going to add another click on the journey when you would rather just have them immediately go to something else? And there's no necessarily wrong or right way to go about structuring that traffic. But as with everything that we've discovered in Creator Camp, intention is by far the most important thing. If you're going to have a link tree, do it with intention, have it be branded, as Snackless mentioned,
Yeah.
and you'll find that whatever you end up choosing, as long as it's something that you feel comfortable in, then that's great. There's also
Yeah.
to consider what platforms you might want to. For example, we have all of the different kinds that you might be using here, but maybe you might want to think to yourself, well, I enjoy making long form content, but frankly, for me, I don't feel like I want to do short form content. That's fine. You might be cutting out a section of discoverability that you otherwise might have, but maybe you feel like it's not suitable for yourself or for the audience that you're going to be garnering. Again, trying to figure out what kind of platforms suit you and what you want to spend your day doing, because I think what we don't recognize enough is that we have limited hours in the day. Maybe you don't want to spend your time cutting down videos into shorts, or cutting stuff into compilations for YouTube videos. And so trying to feel where that balance of success in what the content that you create, but also the inspiration that you find from that creativity, is always a balancing game with content creation. You should always use analytics when you're looking at that kind of metric of success to understand like what might be a good shout in terms of, well, I'm putting a lot of effort into cutting down all of these VODs into YouTube videos, but ultimately I'm not finding a lot of traffic is coming from my YouTube to my Twitch. That might be an opportunity for you after looking at those analytics to make an informed decision on what you might be doing in the future. And likewise, if we're going to be doing any kind of socials, like we've mentioned, with anything to do with marketing, having that branding be synonymous across everything. Again, no orange juice TV with whites, oranges, and greens on one side, and then hot pinks and vivid blues on the other. Though
Yeah.
maybe I might switch it up one day and try that instead. Um, did you want to talk about websites? Because some people have
Yes.
mentioned that, and I feel like that might be a good jumping point with
Yeah,
platforms.
absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about a website, which is a little bit different than a link tree. So basically, a website would be one that you develop that represents you and your brand and the content that you create. Once again, the first question you could ask yourself is, what purpose does having a website hold for me? I personally don't utilize a website, and I always kind of thought I wasn't sure entirely like how a website could best suit people. And then I did some work with 2K, and I was working with some of their next makers, and one of them, their entire work is they run this like Borderlands website that is absolutely incredible. It's like their life's work in content creation, and it is extremely popular. It gets tons of hits. They have all this stuff going on it, and I was like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. And so they've got their website going, and then they've got YouTube. So once again, they're directing traffic back and forth between the two of those, and that's what they found supports their content and their creation. So for them, that website has a lot of purpose and meaning, right? It's giving updates on the game, new information, things you want to know. They're talking about the news in relation to the game, and they're driving that traffic back and forth between their website and YouTube. So what is the purpose, and does it make sense for you, right? Is it serving like a hub for your content, right? Is it like a landing page and it's similar to a link tree, but it's like a snippet of what the content is that you create and then directs people outside of it? There's also SEO benefits to, having your own website. When people look you up, if a website is the first thing that comes up, like what is the first thing that you want to come up, right? And if it's not lining up with what you're hoping for, how can you change that? How can you direct that to be exactly what it is that you'd like? The other benefit to having a website is that you do get full creative control, right? You can basically do whatever you'd like to do and arrange your content in any way, shape, or form. I've seen people have a lot of success with having websites when they are creators, especially creative ones. So people who are artists of some kind that are showcasing the different things that they've done. And so people can kind of look through that like a gallery, but they're also a Twitch streamer. Like maybe I've seen like food and drink people, maybe you have a website because you also have a recipe book. And so you have a website and you're directing people there. And so they're like, oh, wow, not only do you have live content like a cook along, but there's also a cookbook, and here's all this cool information, and here's the different accolades that I've achieved. They can serve a lot of really cool different things that can support you and your channel. So they can be really beneficial depending on the type of content you create and how you could best use a website. And overall, I think to think about in terms of a website is what to ask yourself is this enhancing what I'm already doing? Is this leveling up my content in some kind of way? And you can ask yourself really that question on anything. Is this enhancing me and the content that I create? And if the answer is no, then like it's something to think about again, right? Like, is this worth my time, energy, space, etc.? And another way that I like to kind of do that is like gain information like from my community. Like, do you like this playthrough on YouTube? And what do you think of that? I love asking my chat and community for feedback on like literally anything. Like, can you hear me okay? Does this game look good? Is this lagging? is is there a problem? I know that it's a great way to check in, and sometimes your chat will just tell you things, without you asking, like, hi, we can't hear you, or you didn't change the scene, so I don't know what you're looking at. Those are popular lines that I've heard from my community. I'm sure that you guys have heard your own lines from your communities, but chat in your community is a great way to get feedback on those things. So before we move on to our next section, we just want to talk about overall marketing. Like, what do we talk about? So things to really think about when you have like a zoomed out view of marketing. Is my branding incorporated into my marketing? does my marketing reflect my branding and content? So they kind of go like back and forth together, right? Do they align? Does it make sense where, like, what sites I utilize and what I share on them, right? You may find, like Owen was saying, maybe I don't want to post the same content on TikTok on Shorts. Maybe I want to switch them up, right? Like maybe different content performs better in different places. And I've seen that for sure. Like my best friend the Mash and I were playing Baldur's Gate, and we have this like almost 60 episode playthrough on our YouTube channel, and our shorts for Baldur's Gate would pop off all the time because the people who wanted to watch that content were there, and they didn't perform as well on TikTok because people, for us, and the way the algorithm was working for us, it wasn't leading people to that content. And so if something's not working, you can change it up, right? You're not stuck in something once you've made a decision. I know Owen talked about that a few times today. And lastly, does my marketing enhance what I'm already doing? Okay, and we talked about every single one of these things. We just kept saying that, but like truly, is what I'm doing leveling up my content in some kind of way? Is it adding to what is going on? And you can ask yourself that question in any way. Like when you create a new alert for your channel, is this interesting? Is this enhancing what's going on? Is there some kind of purpose to this, or am I just like adding something to add it, right? Like channel points. Am I just adding channel points to add them, or do I have some cool, unique ideas that I can implement? And lastly, oh, sorry, just kidding. I said lastly already, but one more thing to think about is how can I market myself to my desired audience? So we spoke a little bit about that already, but where is the audience that I'm looking for? And then how can I market them? How can I market my content and myself to them? Whether that is and that's not just our viewers, we're also talking about our peers, right? Like making friends as I go and collaborating is huge on Twitch and content creation in general, right? So where am I producing content and interacting with people so that I can foster these relationships? And lastly, brands. Okay, like they're out there. Let me assure you, they're looking. And if you don't share what your interests are and what your content is and who you are and what you're doing, they will not know. You could be like the biggest fan ever of Mario Kart, and if you don't ever tell anyone that, like Nintendo is not going to know, and that's anything, right? Like you could watch another streamer and watch them comment on Twitter all the time, like maybe they're super into horror and you're like, oh, I love horror too, but if you don't ever post about that or tell them, they won't know. And so generally speaking, I think it's good to just think about sharing you and your content and putting yourself out there and manifesting those awesome connections with new viewers, new peers, and brands for sure. Okay, so a reminder, we've seen some really awesome questions in chat so far, some really great ones. We do have a lengthy Q&A section at the end of this stream. So if you have questions about anything that we're talking about, even if they're kind of specific or general, we do our best to answer as many as we can at the end. So please feel free to pop them in chat and they will put them aside for us to answer at the end as we go. And Koi J in chat says marketing as in graphics. Graphics can definitely be a way that you market. You can use graphics on social media, but you can also use a combination of like clips of your channel, right? Like what was popping off that was interesting that represents you and your content. You can use text, you can use graphics and images. You can use photos of like what you've got going on, right? Like if you are a tech streamer, like a tech savvy streamer, and you always talk about the different technology that you're using and how you're using it in a channel, photos of that and comments on that. It can really be anything that you can use to market yourself in whatever way it makes sense for you and your content. Notice how in all these examples, I'm like, hey, if you do these things, then this might make sense. But if you're a food and drink streamer, well, maybe it would make sense to share pictures of your food and drinks. Like, it should make sense. Or pictures of you eating things, if you're snackless and your snacks keep disappearing. I don't know. I'm just suggesting some cool ideas here. Come home, tune in next time, and Owen and I will have apples and oranges.
Yeah, somewhere in the
besides our
background.
face, yeah, representing. I know. I feel like I gotta get an app. I gotta I gotta
Go
take
get an Apple mascot.
Owen's idea. Literally, I gotta get one. I'm gonna add it to my list of things to do. And on that note, this is a perfect segue. Let's talk about merchandise. Merchandise acts as a physical representation of a streamer brand. They foster a sense of community and allow fans to connect with their favorite creator. Merchandise can help streamers by providing a way for fans to show support, boost brand awareness, and diversify their income. So there's many things to talk about when thinking of merch and many benefits to creating merch. So why consider merch? Why do we care? I'm sure a lot of you in chat have either ran your own merch campaign or participated in one. And what I like to think about is why did we like that? Why did it stand out? Like what made that merch so cool and so good? One of the merch campaigns I ran was a really small one, but it was for my top donators for St. Jude, and I put their name on the shirt. So it was like it had this like chibi of me on the shirt, and then it said Snackless Loves and then their name. And it was so cool, and it was like an absolutely massive, because of course it was unique, and it was going to be one of a kind merchandise that just existed for them with their name. And so I made several of those to say thank you. But why should you consider merch, and then why should other people consider buying your merch? It's like a twofold thing. So if you've ever bought merch from someone, ask yourself like why you bought it. Was it just really cute and comfy? Was it really unique? What was the reason kind of behind it? And merch is a great way to strengthen your community. You know, I went to one of my first conventions many moons ago, and it was a GCX. I think it was still called Guardian Con at the time. And I had made these snacklet shirts, and it was like called the apple of my eye. And it was like a chibi of me with like a magnifying glass looking at them like as an apple, like they are the apple of my eye. And they were really popular, and I showed up there and they were all wearing them. And then we took a photo together, and it was like so surreal and so special, and it really kind of worked to draw people together. And then they could just like look around and be like, oh, a snacklet, because that's what we call my community, is
Nice.
their snack, the snacklet. You know, you get it. So just talk about branding, okay? Snacklets. And so it's a great way to strengthen and build a community. It's another way to have people support you. It's a great way to have people get something in return for supporting you. They get awesome merch, they also support you. It's a cool way to advertise. Then I have all these little snacklets running around, and then on the back of the shirt it says like snackless, and so then they can like run around, right, and says snackless on there. And it's just a fun way to engage with people, right? Because then you can say like share a photo of yourself like wearing my merch either in my Discord or on social media. It's like a fun way to boost what's going on, like have fun conversations, interact with people. I love merch. Okay. I love buying other people's merch. I love making merch. And speaking of that, I see in chat requests for more snackless merch. I'm taking that to heart. And I'm also going to tap in Owen, because Owen has a really cool story about kind of the origin of their merch and how you got started when you were a smaller streamer. And I feel like this is really going to speak to a lot of people, because you know, Owen and I were both small streamers at some point, and we had to navigate many challenges. And one of those is being a small or growing streamer and wanting to do merch and saying like, okay, I have all these barriers. How can I break those down for myself and my community?
Absolutely. You can see on the asset here, like when is a good time to start considering merch, and the knee-jerk reaction to that would be anytime. And when we say that, I don't necessarily mean like you should start making merch right now. It's more that there is no real barrier for entry. If you're averaging 3 viewers, 10 viewers, 100, 1,000, there isn't any kind of mark that you need to reach before you qualify as being a streamer that is entitled to produce merch. The question in terms of timing that you need to be asking yourself is, do you feel like your content is at a place in terms of marketing, branding, community, where you feel like merch would elevate what you've done? For example, when I first started out, I wanted to create, even before then, before I started wanting to create merch, I could have done it right from the get-go, but I didn't have the foundations of what people most enjoyed about my community. And I actually didn't lean very heavily into the whole orange thing very hard at all. Over time, as I saw that the audience had a real affinity for orange related stuff, that meant that when it was time for me to create merch, I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I was averaging maybe about 60, 70, 80 viewers. And I wanted to produce some kind of clothing, a hoodie more specifically. And I remember going to every single merch distributor and essentially just getting turned away at the door every single time because they were like, the kind of thing that you're wanting to
No.
produce, yeah, it happens. And I don't blame them because I was wanting a very specific thing, very
Mm.
customized. And they essentially were just saying, even if 100% of your audience bought one unit, that would only be 80 units. And we have a minimum order requirement of 200. So this just doesn't seem like something you're going to be able to do. So in the end, I turned to Kickstarter and was like, well, I think my audience can back this. I'm going to work directly with the manufacturer and I'm going to try and back it myself by offering a bunch of different assets like exclusive in Minecraft events or access to a server and that kind of thing. And we ended up managing to back it. And there was a lot of real community behind that. This was it in the end. I'll hold it up so you can see it. There's a lot of stuff that I learned while going through that. And I'll share that when we get to the how.
Mhm.
But that was an example for me where it's like, okay, even though I'm a small streamer, I think I can still make this happen. I had the assets and funds to be able to make it happen, to kind of get the ball rolling. But with my community, as you were saying, like it's a way to build community. It's one of the main things that people speak about when they speak about merch, because I still have some left over. Is that one stained? Probably, yeah. But when you have a white hoodie, it gets very easily
It's
stained.
called Well Loved, chat. Thank you very
There you
much. It's
go.
well loved.
That's good marketing. And so that brings us to like, okay, you've decided you want to make merch. Now might be a good idea to start figuring out what you're going to be making. There's a sort of spectrum, I'd say, of like on one side, you've got this is merch whose purpose is to sponsor or kind of shout out about the streamer. It might have your logo, it might have your name, it might have some kind of quote. And that is on one side. And then all the way on the other, you have merch, which I think if you gave to somebody in the street, they wouldn't even know that it was like something Twitch related. There is no good or bad way. There is no good or bad one, but it's up to you to decide, you know, how much do you want your merch to shout about yourself? For example, it doesn't actually say Owen's Juice anywhere on this hoodie. It's just got like a little orange here. And that's because I wanted to create something that was like a piece of clothing or apparel more than it was like a merchandise shouting about
Right.
Owen.
That makes sense.
Does yours have like any kind of
I
assets to do
I
with
should
you?
have grabbed it. Yeah, I don't even think I have it here, but it's literally a giant chibi version of me plastered on it. So, I mean,
That's great.
while it's not like you'd have to know, I think I'm for me personally in my community, I feel like I can speak for them. They're looking for something that represents the snacklets or me in a
Yeah.
way that is wearable. So it's not an actual photo of my face plastered on the front of the shirt. It
Mm.
is a fun version of me that they can use to wear, but I kind of dig how subtle that merch is. Like for me, I like a mix, right? I think there's times where I want to wear something and it like proudly represents another streamer, and that's for me like something I would wear on stream. But for me, out and about in my life outside of stream, I maybe want something that's more subtle. And so that's another great call out to just talk to your community and see what it is they're looking for. And in addition to that, offer them more than one option. You know, even if you like, let's say like Owen is like, oh, I'm gonna offer this orange like blown up on the shirt, but I'm also gonna offer the same like merch essentially in a different style, right? And now maybe it's just on the chest, right? Embroidered.
Mm.
And so then there's something for everyone, you know, and not everybody merchandise isn't just wearable. Just a quick little reminder. I've had people be like, hey, I'd love to support you, but I'm not really into wearing like merchandise like this. Like maybe they dress really professionally, right? Or they're just like, I never wear t-shirts. Totally valid. Then I made them cups, and it had like this snack hug emote on it. It was super cute. Whatever it is that they want, and literally I'll make them whatever, you know, but you won't know if you don't ask them, or if you don't ask, sometimes they don't feel comfortable telling you, you know, maybe they're like, hey, I want to support you, but I just don't like the look of this. But I would use that on a cup. Right? Totally fine. That's totally okay. But also, you know, if you ask questions like that, or if you ask anything of your chat, just remember to be open. You know, feedback isn't always criticism. My big boss at Twitch, Mary Kish, she told me something that I found really profound when I very first started at Twitch. And she said, that feedback is a gift. And ever since that, I really took that to heart. And now I seek feedback from people. And it's not necessarily, even if they don't like what you're doing, it's not like a stab to the heart. It's simply feedback. It's information that you can take in, and whether you make changes based off of that or not is up to you. But you won't know if you can't get that feedback or if you can't garner that information. So it's a great way to gain that for sure.
That's a really good call out as well, particularly the bit about talking to your audience. You are in a position, again, like we said at the very beginning, where your audience is there with you in the room now. And unlike with like maybe a YouTube video, where if you want to ask them about merch, you have to make a whole video and then go and look through the comments. You can have an actual live conversation on account of the fact that it's live. And we actually I just leveraged that concept when we were developing merch. We were doing enamel pins for an S&P development company like Minecraft server company that I helped run. We knew that they wanted a pin, but we had like 8 different designs. And so we let the audience do one big Twitter bracket over every day. They could vote on which one would get knocked out until we had one design left. And now, rather than it just being like, oh, we have to guess which design they like the most, we know that that's the design they like the most. And also, it was basically free advertising the entire time,
Yeah.
because people were kind of getting up in arms like, oh, you have to vote for this one, or surely this one has to win.
Yeah.
So
Smart.
yeah, it definitely doesn't have to be clothing. I've got some pins here that we produce every year. I don't know if these will be in focus or not. But
Oh,
like
wait.
you've got everything ranging from like this is literally an emote of me through to something a little bit
Yeah.
more subtle where it's like a juice box where there's me on the side and it like says Owen's Juice. But like you might not immediately see that and think that's Owen's Juice TV. Some people just see it and go like, oh, it's a little juice box or whatever. Like you
Yeah.
said with you, advertising for your channel doesn't inherently have to be like your name. Like in your case, it was you in a stylized format that people wanted to like enjoy wearing or having on a cup, but it isn't necessarily like snackless and nothing
Yeah.
else. Like it offers some nice quality there.
Yeah.
So if you figured out what you want to produce, it could be clothing, could be accessories, gaming gear, utility items. It could be digital products. For example, if you've got a Patreon, that's another great way of being able to create like digital products to get out to people if you want to. You might be thinking like, how do I actually go about it?
Mm.
And something you need to know is that you're going to be making a lot of mistakes throughout the entire process, as
Yeah.
everybody is wont to do. And unlike streaming, these mistakes might actually cost you a little bit of money because sometimes something can go wrong. For example, we backed this entire hoodie. I set the pricing for the shipping and I set it too cheap for Australia and the States, which meant that for every unit I sold, I was actually making a loss per sale. And
Oh
then I ended up
no.
breaking bang on even for the entire thing. So I didn't make
Bless.
a single penny.
Oh my
But
God.
the entire process was like a learning experience. And the amount of
100%.
lessons I learned from it
We make a
was
lot of
invaluable.
mistakes. This is a
Mm,
normal experience, okay? I needed to update my business cards, okay? My old business cards, was there anything wrong with them? No, but they had my original branding and I was like, man, I can do it better. It's only going to be $50. And you only check out and they're like, hey, for only $20 more, you can get like double. So I was like, okay, fine. Anyway, I order them. They come in. I think they look beautiful. I go to hand them out. Like why I didn't compare them directly to my old ones, I cannot tell you. I go to hand them out and someone picks it up and goes, oh, awesome. What's your email? And I didn't put, or whatever it was. It's some, I can't even remember. Honestly, I can't remember. I blacked out. I've just erased this from my memory, but like whatever, I'm pretty sure it was my email. I swear to God. And I was like, well, that's rather unfortunate, isn't it? So that wasn't a wildly expensive mistake, but it was definitely a mistake and one that I have to fix. And it's
yeah.
only me to thank slash blame. So I
And
could
you
just
only learn it
assure
once.
you, yeah, I won't be doing that again. For I even had people look them over. But once again, like you it's just it's human nature to make mistakes and it's okay to live and learn and know that we all are not putting our emails on things and making no money on the things that we create, you know? It's just
Yeah.
it's just the name of the game.
So when you're going through all of this, there's mainly 3 camps that you're going to be looking at when you're developing your own merch. There's print on demand, where you don't have any kind of inventory that sits anywhere. Say, for example, if I wanted to make a t-shirt, I would take like a basic t-shirt and I would go to a print on demand company and they would say, we offer this t-shirt in these sizes. And you go, okay, great. I'm going to either print my logo on it I'm going to embroider my logo on it, or something along those lines, whatever's within
Mm-hmm.
the realms of their creativity. Those usually have a lower upfront cost, which is great if you're a smaller streamer and you can't fork over much money to be able to like get it started. Although you will be seeing much less customization and much less profit margins. So if you're looking for that to kind of return some kind of profit, you do need to know, for example, those posters in the background there were print on demand that I worked with a merch company to produce. And even for all the effort that we ended up doing, we were making like 10 cents a poster, which was like less than 2% of what we would end up actually like the
Yeah.
audience would be paying for. So sometimes it can be good, sometimes not so much. The
Mm-hmm.
other way, the other camp you have is bulk ordering. This is when you're going to a factory. Maybe you have a middleman who's going to be taking a small commission. That's usually the case. If you're working with a merch company, they'll go, we'll sort out talking to the factory, getting the samples done, and they'll be taking a commission of every sale. You have a much higher quality because the kind of product that you're going to be producing can be more along the lines of the specifications of what you want. And because you're ordering so many units up front, you're going to have a lower unit cost. Which means that you can potentially make more of a profit. The only downside to that is because you're bulk ordering, you're going to have a minimum, something called MOR, or minimum ordering requirement. So, for example, had to have a minimum of like 200 hoodies produced. And I
Mm-hmm.
basically had to front the cost of going into this with the factory. I was like, I'll pay you the cost of 200 hoodies in one go. And I just had to sort of hope that they would all sell. So that is a little bit of a riskier investment. And the final one
Mm-hmm.
is DIY. Maybe you're making all of the merch yourself. I have a friend called Crowfang who basically runs their own apparel company and
Wow.
uses Twitch as a sort of like front to that store. Not
Smart.
only do people want to be able to like have something that looks good, they want something made by Crowfang. Obviously, the payoff for that is very massive labor investments, but you get full customization. So as
Mm-hmm.
you're going into producing merch, knowing what you might want to have, what you might want to change, and trying to figure out what camp works best for you will set you off on a good start. And once
Awesome.
you've
Good
created
call
it,
out.
Snackless, do you have any, like, once that's made, do you have any like approaches that you might want to make, like once you've got the product in your hands?
Yeah, share your merch with your community. Like tell them, once again, we've talked about this about like sharing your schedule, sharing your like share literally tell them when you're going to be attending conventions in person, tell them when you have merch available, tell them when you're streaming, like communicate these things to your people, to your viewers, to your community, to people who want to support you, to your peers, right? Share it with your community and make a game plan as you develop your merch, right? You know, as you're going through the process of planning this out, it's like, okay, I'm going to share that I have merch available. I'm going to remind people. I'm going to give them an incentive to participate. And then at the end of that, it's like, what am I going to do after? Once they all have the merch, what can I do to level up this experience, make it unique, make it a fun experience? They can't support you if they aren't aware, and like just generally, not even for merch, just they want to support you, so make sure you let them do that. And before we move on to our favorite section of the show, Q&A, I'd love to hear if you had any experiences with merch that you were absolutely like had to have and what made it that way. So as we kind of move into and transition into our Q&A section, if you had something that was like a must-have merch, I'd love to know why you felt that way and like what made you think that way. Destiny used to do, but I shouldn't say Destiny because it wasn't Destiny. It was the Destiny community used to make these shirts. And I believe that the money probably went to St. Jude because that was like a big thing for Guardian Con and GCX. And they would put all of our names on the shirt and our logos all arranged together in like a word art to like make an image. And so my name was on that shirt along with all my peers. And it was like a must have shirt. Then it was a must have shirt for me. That was a must have shirt for my community. It was like this big group of things. It was such a smart way to do that, such a cool way to support. So when I think about merch like that, oh, immediately I must have that, right? Whether it's like super cute or even like Twitch merch, when there's like certain merch that comes out and I see it at TwitchCon and I'm like, well, I absolutely must have that. I
It's
can't
these for me.
possibly
It's
leave.
they've really got me with the enamel pin stuff. I have like
Oh, they're
all of
so
the pins.
cute.
They're really nice, and then they do like the mystery bag. So I always have to like try and get. I've got like a big board of all of the ones that they've like done.
Yeah, I
Enamel
have
pins are
quite
like
the
some of my
collection.
favorite stuff.
Yeah, for real. The
Um,
mystery bags kill me though.
yeah,
They
they get me.
literally absolutely horrible. It's so I can't stop myself. I was like, the limit for buying mystery pin bags for TwitchCon, I was like, hey, it's 5. I think I bought like 15. I don't know. I can't control myself. And yeah, it's just it's a problem. But
Mhm.
that's when you know that you have good merch though. Like
Yeah,
for see
absolutely.
Twitch socks, this is apparently me just gathering merchandise information for our internal Twitch teams. Apparently. That's
I will say
awesome.
before we jump into Q&A, I wanted to
Yeah.
mention something to chat. Merch doesn't have to be something you sell. Like we've seen the benefits of it's a way to earn support from your community, but as we've also seen, a way to advertise, a way to engage. The Juice Cafe have these, which I produced maybe like 10 of them. I think they cost maybe like £2 or £3 per unit. So it's a very low input for myself. And I only send them to people who get a like 100k bits badge, which we've discussed using bits badges as like branding tools elsewhere on Creator Camp, which means that somebody is giving a certain amount of bits in order to unlock this, but it's like a badge of honor. And so this
Hmm.
isn't something that I am like producing a large amount of. And the benefit to that is that it's more exclusive. So don't think that when you do merch,
Yeah.
it has to be something that you have to set up a page. Maybe if somebody hits like 365 watt streaks or something like that, you have like an embroidered thread that you then send them, like you
Yeah.
cover shipping as a thank you. So don't
Yeah.
necessarily think of merch as like got to be commerce, got to be high profit margins, because it's a way for you to interact with your audience as well.
100%. That's a great call out. I've sent out like thank you certificates,
Yeah.
literally, and I just cover the cost and it's a thank you for whatever it is, right? Whether it's charity, long time subscribing, participating in a subathon. I also send out these things called snack packages, and they're packages of Canadian snacks, and they're all my favorite Canadian snacks, and then I ship them out for like various reasons. Once again, it was like my birthday. It was a way for me to thank and reward my community, and that's kind of the parallel to what we're talking about. The parallel to merch is like ways to thank and reward your community, which we've talked about previously on Creator Camp. I actually saw a few questions about this. All of our Creator Camp live shows are available on our YouTube channel. There's a playlist there, so if you're looking to watch any of our previous episodes or see even like what the categories are, you can find all of that information there. With that, we're going to hop into a little bit of Q&A. I'm going to take the very first question by Distracted Darts. Is it better to variety stream? So there is a section about this on Creator Camp. I think it's under the what to stream section, under going live, I believe. And there's a drawbacks and pluses to both, but it talks about like if you're going to stream like one game, one category, or completely variety, and it dives into all of these things. But in summary, basically, when you stream variety, you are kind of opening yourself up to more inconsistency, because people who watch you stream Mario Kart might not want to watch you stream Repo. Like they might not want to watch like a party game and an FPS. They might only want to watch party games, for example. And so it can lead to inconsistencies, and it can take a longer time to build a community. That being said, when you find community members who watch you variety stream, it means that they are there because they want to watch solely you and whatever content you're producing. And so in the end, it can result in like a stronger community and more longevity. It can also be sometimes harder to like nail down sponsorships if you have a lot of inconsistency in the type of content that you create. So once again, there's positives and drawbacks to all of that, and it does dive deeper in Creator Camp. I can grab a link for you, but like anything in life, there's going to be pluses and drawbacks, right? Streaming the same game on repeat also doesn't have like totally awesome, maybe you can grow quicker in a directory. So that's awesome. But then it's like you have all of the challenges with being pigeoned into just one directory, right? Like if you only stream Fortnite, well, that's a really, really big directory with a lot of competition. And so while you could move up in that directory faster, it's harder. And then once again, in terms of sponsorships, it's like, well, then you only stream one type of game. So, there's pluses and negatives to all of the above.
Absolutely. I think we've got one here. I said to Shark that I would come back to this because I really liked it. Any recommendations if your target market has never heard of Twitch? When I asked Shark to elaborate on that, they mentioned they are working in ocean conservation, and scientists and divers sort of look at them very strangely when they say like, "Oh, I go live on Twitch." Those people that haven't heard of Twitch aren't your target audience. Those are your peers. They're the people that you're going to
Yeah.
be working with in order to facilitate the kind of content that you might want to later talk about. The target audience are people that are interested in ocean conservation, interested in eco movements, interested in things that might be related to the ocean if you're going specifically for that. A game like Subnautica would kind of work very well in terms of if you have stories about ocean conservation, or ways to talk about, like, oh, this game is really interesting because of these parallels with how the ocean might actually work. You have a really unique and exciting opportunity to have people who haven't heard of the scientists and ocean conservationists that you're working with and the divers to become aware of them. Those people that are on the internet and know of Twitch, those are the people that you're going to be bringing to the scientists rather than the other way around. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if you have one that you want to jump in on, Snackless.
Yeah, I just added 2 links in chat referencing what I was just talking about, but there's like one about deciding what to stream on Twitch and another about like kind of navigating that and the positive and drawbacks. So that's what I was referring to. So please feel free to check it out. There's lots of good information on the site. I know I say that 55 times a stream, but like actually a lot of the answers to these questions are on Creator Camp. So if you have time to kind of pop around, definitely check it out. Okay, next question. Sorry, I wasn't prepared because I was grabbing those
That's
links.
okay. You were grabbing the links.
Oh, this is a good one. Okay, Koi J says, how often do you think you should upgrade your branding to keep things fresh and fun? Well, that's a very tricky question. So changing your branding at all is a bit of a risk. So because people, they associate your branding with you. And so when you change that, they don't associate your new brand with you. And I've seen people change their brand and have a lot of success. But I've also seen people change their brand and then revert it back because people didn't recognize that it was them. And Owen talked a little bit about this at the start of this stream. Like, you need your brand to represent you. And the farther / longer you wait to change your brand, the harder it is for that brand to be recognized as you. So what I would say to actually answer your question, because how often do you think you should upgrade your branding? I wouldn't say, well, actually, maybe upgrade is a great way to phrase that, because I guess what I'm talking about is change your branding. And what you're saying is upgrading it. I would say, personally, this is a very personal, this isn't like a I know Twitch information sort of response. I would just say, like, personally, I think it's great to review your branding and your channel and all your stuff like once a year. I think probably it would be more ideal if it was every 6 months, but to be honest, like, no one wants to be updating everything every 6 months. So kind of what I've started to do is, because I've been streaming for so long on Twitch, I look at things every year and say, does this match what I'm doing? What could I change in the next 6 months? And for me, recently, I updated all of my sub badges because I realized I hadn't updated them since I got partnered in 2017. I had never updated them, and I didn't even have enough sub badges. Like, they stopped at like year 5 of being subscribed. And so I was like, oh, I can do this better. And I'm in a space and a place where I can either commission someone, draw them myself, like find a way to make that work. And so I would suggest maybe choosing something to upgrade or level up every 6 months to a year. It could be anything. It could be like, hey, I'm going to get cool images created, or I'm going to create my own for my channel points. Like, I'm just going to plus those up so that they're more interesting to look at. Yeah, exactly. Koi J in chat says, for sure, because we're always evolving. Exactly, right? And another way that you can know when it's time to change something is according to your chat. Your chat may like literally say, they may make a comment like, oh, I'd love it like if there was more merch one day. Or they might say like, oh, I love this new style of emote. That's another one. Owen and I could probably talk about this, but there's emotes that become popular over time, like different styles of emotes. And so like one I love right now is like flower. It's basically like someone offering a flower, and that kind of became a popular style of emote. Those are great indicators where you're like, oh, great, I have the time, resource, and ability. I'll make a flower emote, right? Or like there's like a few years ago, it was like taking notes, right? I also love those style of emotes, but those are great indicators to know that, you know, you want to plus something up.
Do we have time for one more?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we will.
Okay,
Oh, sorry, we're over a smidge, but we'll take 2. I'm making an executive decision because there's no one here to tell me not to do it. So we'll take 2 more, but I promise we'll be really quick. We'll be
Okay,
really
sure.
fast.
Sinner has said, if I ever want to do my own merch, I feel like going for the kind of merch that gets me excited will help me be hyped up and share my excitement on my own a lot more genuinely. That's true, yes. Valid thought or not? Yeah, absolutely. Or are there particular types of merch that might be tougher to do? They're yes to both. Doing something that excites you is really important because you want the product that you create to be something that you enjoy looking at and hopefully wearing. But likewise, there are going to be categories of merch that are tougher to do. If it's big, like clothing, you're going to struggle to ship it because that's going to be expensive to ship. Smaller items, pins, embroidery badges, mugs, cups, other utensils, sticker sheets, sticker packs. These are products which are a lot smaller, have usually a much lower minimum order requirement, easy to ship, really high creativity, like you can get them really customized, and high value items. Like the profit margin on a pin is sometimes better than on a hoodie because the amount of the cost to manufacture it versus the ceiling of what you could charge for it, respectively, or based on how much you might think it's worth and how much your audience are willing to pay, is a lot higher. So there are definitely categories, and picking one which might be an easier choice is usually better. Turns out, just as a word of warning, socks really hard to produce. I've tried it.
Oh.
You can give it a go if you want, but I have personally strayed away from it because it's very difficult. Anyway, I'll kick over to you.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions and I'd love to answer them all, but unfortunately, we only have time for one more. And I feel like this question actually might be great for people to hear. So the question is from the Great Moog. What are some great ways for a 5-year veteran like me at 50 years old to break through and get featured on the carousel? And so luckily, I can give you some information on that. So the best way that I'm aware of, and this is just my experience as a content creator and my experience working at Twitch, would be to get involved with something that may have a carousel. And so there's two parts here. So part one is there's something on your dashboard called a streamer survey. You should fill out the streamer survey. It says you can self-identify as like a why can't I speak? Asian Pacific Islander. You can identify, whatever it is, right? I think you can also identify if you're like LGBTQIA plus. There's like different things on there you can like self-identify. And what that does is lets Twitch send you information and invitations to be a part of something. So for example, I'm half Chinese. And so when it came time for Asian Heritage Month, they like were like, oh, would you like to be a part of this carousel? And I said yes. Okay, and I'm just going to preface this by saying there have been times previously where this carousel existed and I didn't get invited on. And there's a lot of people and only so many opportunities. And so it's going to change, from season to season, from carousel to carousel. But those are ways that you can at least get on the radar and at least tell Twitch that you're interested in doing things. And then the next suggestion I have for that is sometimes there's specialized carousels. So for example, for St. Jude, if you're interested in fundraising for charity, there's often a like carousel going, or even like a tag or directory. Those are like, I wouldn't sleep on tags as well. Like subsequently, like alongside carousel, also using tags. We are, as Twitch, like we are always looking for people doing unique and cool things and looking to uplift community members. And, one of the ways that we did that is we went into the disability pride carousel, as well as the tag on Twitch, the disability pride tag. And then we dropped a bunch of bits on these channels. And then we put together this awesome reel and we shared them. And the ambassadors and Twitch staff helped us do that. And so there's lots of really cool ways to kind of get involved and be noticed. But part of that is on like filling out things on your side, letting people know you're interested. And the other part of that is like taking part in opportunities as they become available. So hopefully that sheds some light on those things specifically. I apologize that we were not able to get to more questions today. There were a lot of really great ones. We do our very best to get through as many as possible. So thank you so much for sticking around for our Q&A section. I hope it was enlightful and helpful for you as well. I want to encourage you to check out our Creator Camp site. It is a wealth of information. I did drop 2 links in chat in reference to one of the first questions that we answered. It has been recently overhauled, primarily by myself and with the support of my manager, Kawaii Guy, absolute angel. It looks awesome. You might see some familiar faces, and there is going to be even more updates to come. If you're looking for previous episodes of our show, they're all available on our YouTube channel. And I feel like I've said enough about Creator Camp, but also TwitchCon is going to have a new style of Creator Camp sessions that I am spearheading. They're going to be full of engagement. I'm going to have games, prizes, bingo. Okay, it's going to be really fun. So if you're coming to TwitchCon, please come to the Creator Camp rooms and see me. I will hand out all sorts of goodies, and we're bringing lots of fun things there. And with that being said, my name is Snackless. I also stream on Twitch. I'm going to be live on my channel tomorrow if you're interested in coming by to hang out with me. And let's toss it over to Ownj to tell you where you can find him next and tune into his stream.
Yep, Ownj TV on all platforms. I'm doing a finale for a Minecraft server called the Cowboy SMP, and that's happening tomorrow. So if you want to see the end of a very big story, then come along at that. That's at 6 p.m. BST. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a lot of fun again.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great to have you. It was really enjoyable. Thank you for being my co-host and being absolutely fabulous as always. We are going to move into our raid. We're going to be raiding Pizza Princess G, who is in Istanbul doing an IRL stream.
Oh, cool.
That is so cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, so join me. And I swear, next stream, Ownj and I are going to have a fun raid message. I promise you. I'm adding that to Ownj's list of things to do. It's going to be like, I don't know. I have to think of something fun.
We'll brainstorm it.
Well, we're going to come up with something fun. A absolutely huge thank you to our production behind the scenes. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you for making things flawless and smooth. As always, we sincerely appreciate you. And another thank you to Ownj for being here. And a thank you to everyone who took time out of their day to come to our stream. I sincerely appreciate it. And we're really excited that we get to keep doing this show. So thank you very much. Join us in saying hi to Pizza Princess and have the very best of Thursday. We'll see you next time.